It's a really opulent and exciting society. It's really sexy, to be honest. But it's also horribly structured, it's judgmental, it's a kind of well-functioning, well-oiled, brutal machine that spits people out. And so the Mirrorball became this object that was both really tantalizing and exciting, but also kind of oppressive. The Mirrorball is the central feature of the design for Les Liaisons. It is a monolithic sphere that sits in the middle of the space.
The Mirrorball is just shy of 5 meters wide and 5 meters tall. It's made of steel. It weighs 1.4 tons. It has 9 different rings, each of which has 16 candles on, which means there are 144 candles in total.
We were really interested in creating a production that connects a line from the 1700s to present day without totally leaning into either period. The Mirrorball became this idea that held both the kind of opulence and grandeur of the 1700s, of that Parisian Versailles world where mirrors and candles were the coolest thing that you could have on your walls, and a kind of disco hall, a kind of dance room, a kind of club aesthetic.
It's supposed to represent the sort of opulent environment that the characters live in, but it also should feel quite oppressive. When you look at it, it's really just cold metal structure. And it's a bit like the main character that Leslie Manville plays. She's beautiful, but underneath the surface, she is cold and pretty hard.
We were really interested in how to kind of symbolize the sort of contradictions in the play. One of the very early ideas for this production was that we would have a troupe of dancers that will perform these ballroom routines. They will become the society that judges and spits out our characters. The Mirrorball would almost become the sort of leader of the pack in that situation.
There's a sort of mechanical aspect to all of that. You have to know the steps to fit in, and if you don't fit in, you don't participate. So there is this sort of machine behind the scenes, and the idea was that the Mirrorball, although it is ostensibly a very beautiful object, is also redolent of kind of clockwork or behind-the-scenes mechanism.
We knew that this was going to be a big project and was going to involve a lot of different people's expertise. So for the Mirrorball, that involved coordinating between, I think, 11 different technical teams as well as the creative team in order to achieve what you finally see on stage.
There are 144 individual candles on the chandelier. We've got control of every single one of them. Inside the candle, which is made of real wax, they have a LED light source in the top, which represents the flame, and we chose that to make sure that it was the same color temperature as a real flame. There's also a strip of LED which causes the top half of the candle to glow. As you'd expect, you know, like a church candle, when it burns down a little bit, the flame kind of goes inside and the top half of the wax glows very beautifully. So there's quite a lot of engineering in these little things, but they look very good, I think.
Collaboration was totally central to it existing. It takes up a lot of space. And so there was a sort of very careful kind of plan made of how do you light the actors.
We have to find ways of lighting around it. We don't always want to create bounce and reflection from it. It's also covered in mirror. So a lot of the challenge was trying to light the dancers and the actors without necessarily hitting the Mirrorball.
One of the surprises that was a kind of a sort of happy accident and has ended up being quite a big feature in the show is the way that the object casts shadows. It could have been a real nightmare because it could have made it impossible to light the space, James and me. We used our phone torches to sort of light the space in different ways, and what was cast over the floor was this amazing kind of crisp cage-like shadow, and then when you start spinning the ball, it sort of twirls with it, obviously, and that felt like a really exciting discovery. But what was even more interesting and what's often the way with theatre is we didn't really know how we were going to use that or whether it would actually be useful. However, in this situation, we got to the end of Act 1 and we were sort of staring at the space being like, this needs to move forwards. We sort of decided to switch that big light on that we'd put in the middle of the space that went through the model box and it went through the Mirrorball, and it's created these amazing shadows, creating a really ominous feeling.
I would say that the biggest challenge we had on this was making it spin. We're quite used to lifting large, heavy items in and out above our stages. What we're less used to doing is having them move around when they're up there. The first time we spun it, the top was still moving, but the ball kept pausing because it would get enough momentum from the rigging system to move, and then it would stop moving. And that was a slightly scary moment of, is this how it's going to work?
Is it going to be too heavy to fly from our rig? How do you sort of rig it so that it doesn't rock from side to side? What are its speeds? You need the amazing brains of so many different departments, and also a bit of guts to put something that big and that sort of physical in a space.
And our automation team did some fantastic work going back through that and working out what our acceleration speeds are that eliminate that problem, that mean that it can move smoothly throughout.
The moment that we all sort of sat in the Littleton and watched it fly up and spin for the first time was pretty epic, to be honest.
It required so much from all of these people, their best work and their brilliance in order to deliver that. And it made me so excited about what we can achieve as an organisation when we all work together like that.
The really magical thing about making theatre always is that you are almost always doing something that has never been done before. There might be bits of it that you're taking from other productions, but if it's working well, it's always a bit of an experiment.
It's a real testament to the design that you can have something this enormous and it doesn't overshadow the show.
It's quite a threatening object when it first flies in. So it's not all about beauty, it's also supposed to represent the sort of unpleasant side of the world that these people inhabit.
There's a final moment at the end of the piece where you understand that even though all of these terrible things have taken place, the chandelier keeps spinning. It just keeps turning. So despite the pain, despite the loss, the kind of mechanism of society doesn't care.